We love humor. A good joke is irresistible. It improves your mood. It bonds you together with friends and family. There's a reason kids are so drawn to joke books, and so many adults unwind after a long, stressful day with the latest comedy special on HBO or Netflix. This is an urge Ken Jennings, the former Jeopardy champion who won a record $2.5 million on the show, explores in his book Planet Funny, How Comedy Took Over Our Culture. He says humor didn't always play the central role in everyday American life as it does now. According to Jennings, there were certain milestones of comedy infiltrating our everyday lives.
There's a big one in the 1960s when Volkswagen tries a funny ad campaign for the Volkswagen Beetle. And it's going to be hard to imagine nowadays, but ads did not used to be funny. Like, ad agencies were terrified of humor because they thought that audiences would remember the punchline but forget the product. So Volkswagen having success with a funny campaign just rewrote the laws of ads. And of course, jokes are like an epidemic. Once one player is funny, all the competitors have to be funny as well, or else they look stodgy and old-fashioned by comparison. A similar milestone in politics might be, I guess you could go with The Daily Show. Jon Stewart taking over The Daily Show, and a whole generation starting to get their news from a comedy show. Within the Beltway, it probably starts in 1992, or maybe 1988, when Bill Clinton gives a disastrous speech at the Democratic National Convention and feels like his political career is over. And his handlers managed to get him booked on Johnny Carson, which was a huge deal because politicians and candidates never used to do talk shows. It just wasn't done. And Clinton goes on, plays the sax with the band and charms Johnny's socks off. And suddenly, within a matter of 3 days, his political career has turned around. And America sort of realizes, oh, this is the new forum now. This is the new arena. Politicians are going to have to be funny.
The allure of comedy is obvious and may be a sign of how far we've come as a species. Jennings says humans used to value strength and hard work above humor because the most important thing you could do was provide for your family and maintain your livelihood. But in the current age of automation, comedy is king.
A lot of it is that it's hard to fake. You can fake being serious. You can fake lots of elements of having a job, lots of personality traits. You can fake generosity, probably. You can fake compassion. It's almost impossible to fake this one positive personality trait, a sense of humor. And as a result, it's a good stand-in for lots of other things. I think that's one reason why it's always at the top of the list when people ask, what are you looking for in a partner? In a dating profile, what's the most important thing to have? Both sexes will almost always put a sense of humor at or near the top of the list. And I think it's particularly in our era where so many of the things our brains and bodies can do have started to be mechanized and automated away, so that things that once would have seemed like respectable skills, I repaired this part on this machine, or, whatever it was that gave people's lives meaning. I bring in this crop every year on this week. We have robots to do all that now. What are the last few things, the last few human skills that seem truly human that can't be automated away? It's a lot of creative tasks, and telling jokes is a big part of that. Computers and robots are terrible at jokes, and scientists have tried.
So if jokes make us happy, and jokes have never been more plentiful, then that's a good thing, right?
If the book has a punchline, it's this: everything is funnier. Why aren't we happier? It seems like we're taking less and less pleasure out of this constant stream of jokes that surrounds us, maybe just because there's so many of them.
Jennings says an odd side effect of humor being king is that jokes start showing up in places where they may not be entirely appropriate.
Why does a church marquee have to have a pun on it? Those used to be Bible verses. That was fine. The place I really notice it is in airline safety videos, which the safety pamphlet always terrified me as a kid. I was always a very serious flyer looking for where the oxygen mask came out and where the life vest might be. And today, these videos are often just stuffed with all kinds of absurdist non sequiturs. They're essentially long comedy skits on many airlines, which is the oddest thing to me.
But it's not just in our advertisements and environment. Jennings says we play a central role in this humor takeover.
The lingua franca of social media, and Twitter in particular, seems to be like a big joke contest. Like, the world is now a big writer's room, and no matter what happens, you've suddenly got hundreds of thousands of people trying to come up with topical quips about it, like we're all writing for Jay Leno in 2004. And it doesn't even matter what the news is. Like, a celebrity will die. Kate Spade died, and I had to sit through people making jokes about Kate Spade committing suicide on Twitter, and I thought, this is awful. This is not a healthy response to hearing about someone passing away. Almost everything is now quasi-comedy, and there's this weird effect. We've all been exposed to so much of it that we kind of know the rhythms and the mechanics of it, and we can sound like we're quipping and riffing, even if we're not actually doing anything all that funny. And one result of that is you get this new comic vibe where it's kind of just like fun people bantering with each other, and it drives a lot of podcasting. It drives a lot of kind of comedy panel kind of stuff, and it certainly drives these late-night shows where really it's just you're watching two people play categories, and they're having fun, so maybe we're vicariously having fun. But, the flavor of comedy has kind of seeped into everything, whether or not anybody's writing jokes for it.
Of course, it's not all bad. Comedy is still fun. As Jennings points out, simultaneous to this rise of quasi-comedy has come a goldmine of professional comedy of the highest caliber.
We're living in a golden age of real smart comics telling jokes about serious things in a way that's almost advocacy or activism. When I see John Oliver do 15 minutes on civil asset forfeiture or statehood for Guam or, actual serious issues that he can get viewers into by jollying them along with jokes, really good pointed jokes. Or a comedian like Hari Kondabolu, for example, making very good, serious points about things like race and class and different kinds of prejudices, all with sharp jokes. We still live in an arena where comedians are free to make jokes about serious stuff.
But Jennings says he does lament that comedy has been used as a weapon against people or as an easy way to cover up scandals and alleviate concern about things that we actually should worry about.
My biggest fear about this comedy-saturated world is kind of my dawning realization that it didn't have to be this way. But a lot of this was driven by powerful actors, by powerful people and organizations who essentially co-opted comedy, who realized that they could use it as a tool. Ad agencies who could trick you into buying an inferior product by making the ad funny. Political campaigns who could get you to vote for the less qualified candidate if he was a better showman. We see it extending to, even the CIA today has an ironic Twitter account where it will tell jokes to kind of diffuse its own possibly problematic reputation.
Jennings says he simply wrote the book to express his concern and try to shift the way people think about humor. Maybe everything doesn't have to be made into memes or punchlines.
We live in this age of such thick irony. I think many people, myself included, feel uncomfortable with certain kinds of sentiment and sincerity. It's just not a muscle we get to use that much. And we kind of feel like it's not even an option anymore. Like, well, boy, what will people think if I actually say how I feel? I don't think it's always a good impulse to be the funny guy, even if it worked for me in third grade. The book made me take a long look in the mirror myself, actually. Like, I don't want to be remembered as, for a Jeopardy guy, he was funny on Twitter. I feel like it's not too late for me to be remembered as something a little more ambitious. It's not too late for me to be the compassionate guy or the generous guy or whatever it is. I don't like this idea that humor is self-evidently the highest good in society. And I hope others take that same look and wonder, what things should stay serious? What things were better off without that thick layer of snark all over them?
So sit back, relax, and unwind to the latest comedy special from Hannibal Buress or Ali Wong. But maybe we should also remain serious in the moments that call for it, like policy debates, celebrity deaths, or FBI investigations. For more of the history of comedy in our culture and what it means for our world, Ken Jennings' book, Planet Funny, is available now. For more information about Ken Jennings and all of our guests, visit our site at viewpointsonline.net. You can find us on Twitter at Viewpoints Radio. Our show is written and produced by Evan Rook. Our executive producer is Reed Pence. Our production director is Sean Waldron. I'm Marty Peterson.